Good morning, Unity. Okay, so this is the third video, and by now you're all asking yourselves the question, what has this got to do with the Unity Group? Well, as most of you know, the Unity Group was founded spiritually. It was a concept that came to me during a time of deep meditation, fasting and praying on a mountain in the Western Cape, and that is how this concept of economic governance was born. So that is what these videos are about, is about bringing us in line with what the Spirit is doing and how the Spirit is going to bring about economic governance in this country. Because quite frankly, I don't have a clue, and the only way it's ever going to happen is if the Spirit does it. Alright, so we were talking about surrender, we were talking about discipline. And so for me, the concept of discipline became the most important thing. When I started meditating, when I started spending times of silence, it was incredibly difficult. I was unable to keep my mind still for more than a few seconds. And when you are meditating, the most important thing is to have absolute silence in your head. And as many of you know, your mind, your will, and your emotions are what make up your soul or your ego. And a person who is controlled by their own mind, their own will, and their own emotions is a person that is going to be sort of floundering around. Ultimately, a person that is spiritual is a person whose mind, whose will, and whose emotions are controlled by the Spirit, one way or another. Now, the Spirit is not interested in robotic people. Spiritual life is about people becoming individuals. It's about everybody becoming their own person. The Spirit has no interest in having millions of people like itself. The Spirit is interested in having millions of people that are diametrically different to each other. And that is the difference with religion. Religion attempts to make everybody the same, whereas the Spirit is wanting to have everybody unique and themselves. And so when I started meditating, a few seconds I was able to keep still. But I had a desire. And that is another important word for you to remember. You need to have a desire. You need to want to be spiritual. You need to want to experience something at a deeper level. And if you do, the Spirit will come to meet you. And it took me a few weeks, probably 4, 5, 6 weeks or so. I was eventually able to get my mind still for maybe 10 minutes or 30 minutes or so at a time. But then the Spirit realized that I was committed to this thing. The Spirit realized that this is what I wanted. And something else suddenly kicked in. And my desire became hunger. I was unable to not meditate anymore. I found myself falling out of bed onto the floor where I used to lie and meditate. And I'd lie there for 4 hours without a single thought going through my mind. And the time would go past as in seconds. And when I realized this, I realized that something different was happening to me. And I'm saying these things so that you can also understand that this is as possible for you as it was for me. I have a very ADHD type brain. I'm extremely busy in my head. And I was able, with the help of the Spirit, to keep myself still. So the first exercise that I would like you to carry out as of today is I'd like you to try to still your mind for 1 minute. It's only going to be a few seconds to start with, but do it. Start with those few seconds, time yourself. See, okay, well, that was 5 seconds. Now see if you can push a little bit further. And this is where the discipline kicks in. Desire and discipline and surrender. Those are the 3 key words. Start with a few seconds of stillness, of quiet, not a single thought in your mind. Just be still. Spirit, Holy Spirit, universe, I surrender myself to you. I give myself entirely to you. Take control of my mind, my will, and my emotions. Do that. Start with those few seconds and work yourself up to 1 minute. That is the exercise that I'd like you to start with now. And once we get to 1 minute, you'll find it a lot easier to get to 3 minutes. Now remember, your mind is going to continually hassle you because you're used to living in your mind. But now you're going to start living in your spirit, which is very different. So when those thoughts come, just stop them. Have a key word. Whatever that word is, dog, stop. And immediately you'll realize, when your brain says dog, you realize you've got to stop. So work on something like that for yourself, and then we'll carry on with this a bit further tomorrow. Have a great evening.